Concern over the rising cost of living in South Africa has heightened as a result of continued increases in the price of petrol, transport, food and electricity. This is all in less than 3 months into this new year and has been made worse by the global effects of tensions between Russia and Ukraine, as business reporter Tumisang Ndlovu reports.
Analysts have warned that the fuel price is expected to continue on an upward trajectory, especially given the effects of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine that have pushed the international oil price higher. The Automobile Association's Leighton Beard shares his views.
It's going to have a ripple effect on individual consumers. Inflation is likely to be affected by this, which is going to have another impact on lending rates. So the impact is going to be enormous. We will see increases to prices, to goods that people need to survive. So basic commodities will for sure become more expensive, and that will obviously filter through to the disposable income that people have at the end of every month. A R2 increase pushing fuel further into record territory is going to be extremely difficult for very many millions of South Africans.
The transport sector is also concerned with balancing operating costs versus hiking commuter fares. Theo Malele from the National Taxi Alliance says the current situation is serious.
There hasn't been much coming from the government side to mitigate this whooping almost 40% increase just in 2 years. The issue of passenger subsidization comes to play. We really feel that if customers or our passengers were to be subsidized, this would actually give us a breather in that we currently are charging charity fares as opposed to market-related fares.
The bus industry has already hiked prices. Golden Arrow spokesperson Bronwyn Dyke Beyer says this decision to implement an 8% increase earlier this month wasn't easy.
Because this is so unprecedented and we're seeing all of this global chaos, we wanted to be fair to our passengers and say, look, we need to make you aware that there is a possibility that we will need to implement further increases. We don't want to, but we need to be reasonable and we want to have everybody prepared. So yes, we would obviously do everything possible to avoid having to implement another increase. We're obviously always looking at cost efficiencies, ways to save money, ways to have a more leaner operation. But, we need to be reasonable and yes, we may have to look at that.
Another worrying factor is the rising cost of food, with sunflower oil and wheat leading the pack of basics that are becoming unaffordable in the South African food basket. Mervyn Abrahams from the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group says not even the state social grants are near enough to meet affordability.
So, for instance, maize meal, rice, cake flour, cooking oil has spiked massively and continues to be at a very high level. We've seen chicken increase by something like 14%. We've seen eggs increase by about 10%, beef by about 11%, margarine by about 17%, and bread by about 3% year on year. So these are all massive increases, and the outlook for this year is even greater increases due to higher fuel prices and greater commodity prices. For instance, wheat prices, soybean prices are skyrocketing off the current Russia-Ukraine conflict.
All these factors are posing a risk to inflation amid existing concerns over rising global inflation, which may see a change in monetary policy, especially as the South African Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee, which is due to meet next week, began its repo rate hiking cycle late last year. Analysts are expecting that another rate hike may be on the cards ahead of the outcomes of the MPC meeting to be announced on Thursday, which will mean more cost pressure on the already cash-strapped South African consumer. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Tumisang Ndlovu in Johannesburg.